Welcome to episode 115 of the High Volume Hiring Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Stephen Rothberg, also the founder of College Recruiter Job Search Site. Joined today here, as almost always, by my co-host, Jeanette Leeds. Jeanette, great to see you.
Great to see you too. And speaking of founders, I'm really excited today. We have Dillon Hill, who is the co-founder and head of growth at Cosmoforge. And so I'm really excited because today we're going to dive into the whole topic of how do you prioritize your recruiting marketing budget. So Dillon, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Good stuff. So for our listeners who are like, well, what's Cosmoforge? And maybe just give us a little bit of background on you, what Cosmoforge is, and then we'll dive into a topic at hand.
Yeah, sure. My background is quite the adventure. I'll try to be concise here. The kind of rise to fame was I actually dropped out of college to pursue a foundation for my friend who was diagnosed with terminal cancer.
Wow.
Tons of stories I could go from there, lots of different anecdotes. But the short of it is that foundation went very viral, and that virality led to us finding a bone marrow donor, a statistical improbability that we did not go in thinking was possible, but it became possible as a result of us breaking the world record for the largest bone marrow donation drive. And he's been in remission ever since.
Wow.
And that really blew my mind. At the time, I was 19 or so.
Wow.
And I saw firsthand, like, wow, this digital marketing stuff literally saved someone's life. So I kind of thought I might have had a knack for it and started doing freelance. And then that rolled into Cosmoforge, where I help sort of small, medium-sized businesses. Ideally, we would do cool things like that, but that's not always the reality. That's not always an option. So sometimes a little bit more of the basic stuff. But ultimately trying to dream big and make real world, entrepreneurs, businesses see the value of all this technology around us.
So I've got to ask, what's the foundation? And for people who want to look it up, maybe become bone marrow donor. I'm listed. I've never been called. It is a pretty rare thing. It's not like blood donation where you can go like every 60 days, like setting your watch, but
yeah, you have to be a perfect genetic match. To sign up for that, that's a national registry. It's called Be The Match. So you can just go to bethematch.org. And it's very simple. You just swab your cheek and they'll basically check that genetic match. And then if you get a call in, it's actually these days a very simple procedure. My friend, when he got it, described as being punched really hard in the butt. And then you're out. You're in and out. It's a kind of a day-long thing. So absolutely worth doing. It can literally save a life.
To give up a day to save somebody's life, even if it's a stranger, it's like, sign me up.
Yeah, and you get cookies too.
Oh, well.
2 for 1.
I mean, if you get a cookie, hey.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, one of the reasons we wanted to have you on the podcast is a lot of what you're doing, and we've talked about even in the green room, is on the more on the consumer side. And there's so many, what I would say, like best practices, and not even best, but like cutting edge, new types of things that we can take on the consumer side and put it on the recruiting marketing side, which is consumer, but not quite. So maybe just from that standpoint, and maybe we'll just get a little technical to start. When you're thinking about managing your ad budgets, for your clients, how do you decide where you're prioritizing spending for the best results? And I'm also curious, just how that maybe has changed in the past year, right, as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think I like to think of marketing in general as developing relationships with future customers. If you change out future customers for future team members, it can have a very similar understanding when you break it down to the fundamentals. And in the same way, to go along with this weak metaphor of building a relationship, it's sort of like if you had some money to spend and you wanted to get a life partner, where would you spend it? Well, it's kind of difficult to answer because you really need to understand what comes first, right? What steps lead to that ultimate end goal? So if your end goal is to get, maybe hire 10 new engineers for a big hiring initiative this next year, you got to think about, okay, well, how many applicants are we currently getting? And if you don't know that, then you move backwards and go through the entire marketing funnel. Marketing funnel, in short, is just there's stages to all of these relationships. At the top level is awareness. It's the Super Bowl commercials. It's something you saw in passing. And then there's consideration where you're actively like, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't do it. And then ultimately the conversion, the actual applying for a job or getting hired for a job. So when you're thinking about where do I put my money, I like to start from the bottom, the highest intent thing, the, let's say, 10-year retention of an employee, and work backwards from there and say, where are our systems breaking down, right? Where do we start to become uncertain about where this is growing? And that's where the money should go. And then once that gets figured out, you move on to the next one and go higher up in the funnel. And usually by the time that you have really good awareness, it's time to go back to the other side and say, okay, let's think about retention now.
I thought it was really interesting that you said, sort of like, where is the system breaking down? Which kind of begs the question that that something's broken. And what I'm kind of piecing together there is the use of benchmarks. Like if you know that your marketing funnel, you have 10,000 people coming in to your website and 500 apply and you interview 50 and you hire one or whatever, is that good? Is that bad? Is each stage good? Is each stage bad? So maybe talk about the use of benchmarks and how an employer, especially when hiring at scale, how do they find the right benchmarks to use?
Yeah, I think it's probably important to distinguish maybe between future-looking benchmarks and sort of retroactive benchmarks. In my space, an example would be maybe we set up alerts where if the website traffic for a particular day goes below like a band of a range of people visiting the site, alarms go off, right? If we're used to getting 1,000 a day and one day we get 200, something is clearly wrong. And that's sort of like a retroactive benchmark. It's like, hey, what happened in the past? And how does that relate to maybe what we're currently doing? And how do we react to that? I guess that's usually just sort of like a motivator. I guess that's a push, right? To like, hey, we got to wake up and take care of this, or something's wrong, something like that. Where I think Future Forward is a little bit more optimistic. These are the things where we say, okay, this is what it's used to doing. These are the initiatives that are happening within the organization. These are the things that are happening in the industry, all these different variables, right? Put that together and say, this is what we want to achieve. And that's more of like the carrot, right? Less of the stick and more of the carrot. And I think both of those together is really important, because there's sometimes when you want to, for lack of a better way to say it, get complacent or like relax, or maybe one part of the relationship, we're going to relax a little bit, but we're going to use our retroactive benchmarks to wake us up if it does become a problem, versus the other side, which is this is currently a problem. So this is how we're going to fix it, kind of thing.
That's really interesting. So talking about problems, it's like we're all filled with lots of problems. Like what are some of the common pitfalls that you're seeing?
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about me there, because you were going to talk about problems. We don't have enough time to diagnose all those.
Not today. So
I don't think
common problems, common pitfalls. Like where you seeing that with like the paid ads, and how can people avoid them? So
there's a lot. There's a lot of specific advice I could give. There's settings that you can do where if you check this check mark while creating a campaign, you'll be wasting tons of money. But I think more generally, where we're at now is just sort of this balance between, a lot of people will say, it's all algorithms these days. Let's just throw something out there and let the robots figure it out. Or people on the other side of the spectrum, which is, we have to perfect every single tiny little detail, and that's how we're going to get an edge up, or that's how we're going to get the goals that we hope. And I think finding that nuance is very important, and not going too far in either of those extremes. And just ultimately finding like, okay, yes, the algorithms are a huge part of how you spend money with paid advertising these days, right? You can't ignore them. You need to give them the right signals. You need to give them sort of a baseline opportunity to perform well. On the other end, you don't worry about giving them all the information possible in the entire world and optimizing perfectly. Just somewhere in the middle of like, let's set it and forget it, but also let's give them a good starting point.
One of the things I'd love to hear is like Jeanette mentioned a couple minutes ago, like stuff in the last year. Is there something new, whether it's like literally this is all new stuff, or just like a really new way of using something that's been around for a while, that your clients are using, that they're coming back and it's like, Dillon, give me more? The reason I want to ask that is because recruitment marketing tends to lag consumer marketing. You guys have a lot more budget to spend, is a big part of it. So the recruitment marketers have to be really careful that nothing fails.
Yeah.
But boy, are we good at copying what works on the consumer side.
Sure.
So what's coming?
I mean, AI, right? Everyone's thinking about it. I would say one of the more interesting use cases of AI, and we're getting really deep in the sauce here, but on most of the ad platforms, they value variety. And what I mean by that is if you're seeing an ad on Instagram, that ad is going to perform so much better if it's tailored to exactly who you are. If it says, hey, your name is Dillon, you live in California, you should buy this product, I'm going to be a lot more compelled than if it says, hey, you should buy this product. The challenge there is someone who's delivering these ads is, well, of course, privacy concerns and saying their specific name. You never want to do that.
Okay. I was going to be like, I was going to wait, but it's like, yeah, that'd be creepy for me, but okay. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. That might be too far extreme, but, personas and sort of like a parent or not a parent and things like this. AI is really sort of allowing you to test that variety and have that persona specific messaging in a way that is just way more scalable. So like a specific thing that we do is we break down our ads into 3 parts. One is the hook, the second part is the benefit, and the last thing is the call to action. And we kind of break those apart like Lego blocks. So we'll develop 50 hooks, we'll develop 50 benefits and 50 call to actions. And then, technically it's AI, but AI is kind of a marketing term now. Just code to recombine those Lego blocks. So suddenly, if we make these little tiny 10-second clips, we recombine them in every possible recombination, we can have hundreds of ads. And we could put them out there into the ad platforms. And suddenly now the Facebook algorithm, the Instagram, just as examples, they can show these ads to these personas and test every little kind of variant and find the combination of things that will appeal to a very specific person. I guess the more practical takeaway or sort of the more general takeaway is AI is a lot more useful than just the ChatGPT conversation that a lot of people are happening. I think it enables people to do a lot more than they used to be able to do. And that's really what's happening right now in marketing is you're kind of pushing away all the busy work and really you're able to focus on like the high level strategic decision making. And I think in your industry, looking for those opportunities could be really valuable.
Yeah, speaking of tech, I'm like, just like disappeared.
Yeah, my whole screen
for a second. I was
around.
like,
I swear that wasn't me.
Wild.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's such an interesting point, Don, because like everything is there's new ways to do things, but it really in the end is a tool, right? Yeah. Like AI is a tool. So like maybe just leave our listeners with like almost like my last question because I'm looking at the time around like how are you picking up and learning some of these new tools? Like where are you finding, how are you keeping yourself like up to date, ahead of the curve, like incorporating this? Because there's so much new stuff.
Love that question.
Yeah.
I think the way it works out for me is because of that framework we talked about at the beginning, where you're always identifying the weakest link. It gives you a reason to always be looking for a way to optimize, right? If you were to say our initiative for the next 5 years is to do this one specific thing, and then you do it, and then you're done. There's no reason to learn anything more. Yeah. But if you say this initiative is the very high intent bottom of the funnel, okay, great. Now we're done with that. We're moving. We're constantly moving and refreshing and rethinking and sort of like never being complacent with what we've built because there's always a bottleneck. There's always something that needs to be solved. And as a result, there's always something to Google. That's what really works for me. Yeah. I don't have a place I go to or a person I listen to. It's more so just assume there's always an opportunity to improve and then Google it or, speak to your colleagues or whatever it might be. But yeah.
I love that. To me, it's like being curious, right? It's be curious, ask the questions, whether that's on Google or maybe Chat or Claude or Grok or Perplexity or whatever. But I think I love that you gave that as an answer because it's not one thing, right? It's just that natural curiosity. Awesome. Well, this was fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dillon.
Until next time. Take care, everyone.
Cheers.